If you're going to be on this conversation and someone's listening to it and be like, I'm down. Okay, well, what would be some of the maybe faux pas that I could be doing in my current customer journey that would make it so that I'm just throwing money away?
Yeah, that's a big question and a big answer. And so I usually start with the fundamental principle is what drives all human decision making. And, people watching and listening to this podcast are probably familiar with left and right brain thinking. Left brain thinking being logic and right brain thinking being emotion. So here at the Entourage, we call the left brain the red brain. Why do we call it the red brain? What do you do when you get to a red light? You stop. What color is the stop sign? It's red. And so when we have logical conversations and when our prospect is anchored in their red brain, it causes them to stop, pause, look for danger, and retreat. Right? Now, whenever you have a conversation about your product, about your service, about the terms, about the timeline, about the contracts, about the paperwork, about any of the rational inclusions or the features, we're having red brain conversations, and a prospect anchored in their red brain will increase the rate at which they procrastinate. So they will wait longer, they will look for danger, and they will ultimately look to retreat. The problem with red brain is that it becomes our comfort zone, because as business owners or salespeople or marketers, what do we think about all day? Unfortunately, the answer isn't the customer. What we think about all day is our product or service. And so we come into any sales conversation talking about what we're comfortable talking about, which is the product or the service. On the other hand, you've got the right brain, which is known for emotion. And so we call this green brain. Why? Because when you get to a green light, what do? You floor it. Often you might drive through a green light, get to the other side and go, oh my God, was that light green? Because you weren't even conscious of the fact you weren't looking for danger. You just wanted to proceed. And so whenever you're able to help a prospect to be anchored in their green brain, in their right brain, they will make better, faster decisions. And how do you do that? You do that by understanding that within green brain, there are fundamentally two driving forces that drive all human decision making. The first is the desire to move away from pain, and the second is the desire to move towards pleasure. And so we call these buying motivators. What are the buying motivators of your prospects? And so the away froms are, what are their challenges? What are their problems? What are their frustrations? What are their fears? What are their do not wants? And then the towards motivators, the pleasure, is if the away from motivator is my current undesired reality, the toward motivator is, what is my future desired reality? If the away from motivator is what are my challenges and what are my problems, the toward motivator is, what are my goals and what are my wants? What are my dreams? What are my hopes? What are my do wants, right? And so when you can start to communicate absolutely everything about your product or service through that lens of from to, where are you leading me from? What pain are you helping me to avoid? Where are you leading me to? What pleasure are you helping me to attain? Then your product or service, you're no longer having a one-dimensional conversation about your product or service. You're only talking about your product or service in the context of where you're leading me from and where you're leading me to. So your product or service just becomes a conduit to solving the customer's problems and helping the customer achieve their goals. Now, that might sound like a pretty fundamental shift, and it is. But if I was to audit the websites and the sales conversations of a lot of people listening right now, what we would find is one-dimensional red brain conversations about their product or service, and it would be devoid of green brain. And so what we need to understand is people buy emotionally and justify logically. And so the more we can integrate green brain communication around the red brain stuff, because you do need red brain stuff. People need to know the basics. They need the logistics, right? What am I buying? How much is it? When am I getting it, right? So it's not about, red brain isn't the enemy. It's just that we're red braining ourselves out of sales because we're having one-dimensional conversations that are completely rational, and the green brain isn't activated. If you could, like, we've had e-com businesses that we've taught that principle to, and we teach it over a day. But they go home that night. There's one brand I'm thinking of, a brand called Style Runner here in Australia. They sell like really cool Athletica clothes online, and this is 8 years ago now. They went home and they optimized 500 landing pages we taught them green brain sandwich, which is if you're trying to communicate a product in their instance, selling clothes online, you've got like half a paragraph. So you've got like 3 sentences. And so in that instance, what we suggest people do is they start with a green brain sentence, something that speaks to the problem or something emotive or something cozy about this particular garment. Then give me the rational, then give me the green brain. They went home, they green brained 500 landing pages. Within a week, their revenue had increased 500%. And when I talk to you about red brain, green brain, honestly, most of my brain is thinking about service-based businesses, conversational-based sales processes. And so using an e-com example probably sounds a bit left of field, but it just goes to show that people are people are people. And to come back to your question, what is the one thing that we see prevents people from increasing sales conversions is they're having one-dimensional conversations about their product rather than having an emotional conversation about their prospect.
Damn, we're on a masterclass here, guys. Like, it's. I love this. I've never heard it spoken in this fashion. The red brain and the green brain concept.
Yeah.
I've never used that, but it's such a good anchor to remember it.
Yeah.
And God, Jack, I forget that myself. Like,
yeah,
I'm Jason, selling with love guy. Like, I've fallen into that red brain trap. And I know the results it brings. It sucks. It's like I kick. You know what happens when I go red brain on my, say like I'm writing sales copy or I'm on a phone call and I'm talking with this red brain language because it's almost like I'm so into it that to me it's obvious. So I'm just giving you the logistical details.
Yes.
And then I'm almost like, there's a part of me that's like sometimes I lose hope in people to be able to make smart decisions because I assume that they know what I know with the assumptions that I have.
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh crap. I need to stop that. I need to go back to understanding like human, emotional.
Yes.
I need to speak green. And that needs kind of a constant effort to bring back to, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But man, what you just said is so pertinent, which is it's easier to speak in red brain. It's easier to default to that. And the reason is we assume every business owner watching this right now, or every salesperson or marketer, obsesses so much about the product or service that they're trying to get in front of people that we assume, I tell you about the product, the prospect is going to be able to extrapolate that to the problems it solves and the goals or the outcomes it helps them achieve. And they can't, and they don't. And even if they could, they still probably wouldn't because they're busy and they're not thinking about you as much as you are.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.